Let me introduce you to the easiest and most cost-effective way into the Fender world. Let's check out the brand new Fender Standard Series. For the longest time, and certainly since I was a wee lad, the first step into the Fender name was their Mexican range. These days, you can buy yourself a Player 2 guitar, which used to be Player just a couple of years ago, and that was your first step into a guitar that said Fender on the headstock. Well, times have changed right now because we have a brand new entry point, which actually kind of pulls from a little bit of Fender's past as well. Because previously, before the Player range, for anyone who's in the same age group as me or a little bit older, you will remember that there was already a range called the Standard range. This was all made in Mexico. This sort of preceded the Player range. And that was, you know, they were great guitars. Certainly, I still play my old Mexican Standard Telecaster to these days. Aaron might put a photo up with me actually holding said guitar just above my head there. But we're entering a new stage with the Big F these days because now the Standard range, they're all produced in Indonesia. And this is the most cost-effective and your first step into the Fender brand name. We've got quite a lot to be getting on with today, so I'm just going to jump right in. But just to say, if you want to see a certain guitar, you can check the description below. I'll split this video up into chapters, so if you want to see the Strat, you want to see the Tele, anything like that, you'll be able to skip to that. But let's just jump right in and let's explain what the Standard range are. So just what exactly sets the Standard range apart from the Player series? I'm just going to give you the kind of main talking points for that. Just not going to go too deep into specs. I'm just going to kind of talk about the stuff that really, really matters. So, of course, the biggest difference is the fact that these guitars are made in Indonesia. Now, Fender are no stranger to making Far East guitars. The Squier brand are all made out in China, out in Indonesia. They're absolutely amazing guitars, especially for the price. But these are kind of a step above that. That's the first thing that I found when I got these guitars in my hands. Not only because of the, you know, the kind of closeness to the Mexican range, but also there's a certain like feel with them, particularly with that neck that you go, oh yeah, that's a Fender. So that's the biggest difference, is the fact that these are all Indonesian made as opposed to being Mexican made. The other noticeable difference is to do with the body wood. This isn't alder, this is poplar, what they're using on this. It definitely still feels like quite lightweight, like an alder body. And in all honesty, I'm not really noticing any difference, especially when you stick a bunch of distortion or a bunch of pedals or anything like that into the guitar. Now, the other big difference is the fact that they are using Laurel on these for the boards. You will have noticed with the Player 2 series, if you kept up with them, that there was a big return to Rosewood with them. We're using Laurel on this, which is just a slightly cheaper cut, but let's be honest, like looking at that board there, it's quite indistinguishable from Rosewood. You know, you're not getting any of that paleness. It's a nice dark board. It's actually like really even across the board as well. I think that looks absolutely great. Something that they share with the Mexican counterparts as well, and actually quite a few Fenders across the board, even their American ones. This has got that classic modern C neck on it, so it's going to feel absolutely awesome to play for extended periods of time. And there are a bunch of new colors that we will talk about just in a bit. But why don't we get some sounds out of this again? I've decided to go a bit bougie today. We have got the dual setup with the stereo deluxe reverb tone masters here. I've got a couple of pedals just to get some sounds out of it, but let's hear how this guitar's handling. So what Fender have loaded these guitars with are the standard ceramic set of pickups. Just, you know, this is kind of as Fender as it gets. I really don't need to get into much description of them. Just listen to this. Hearing that with a little bit of distortion on it, here's just a kind of standard Tube Screamer sound on here as well. You're definitely getting exactly what you would expect with a Fender. There we chuck a little bit more distortion at that. We'll get kind of what we would expect from, say, a lead tone with this. Ain't nothing wrong with that at all. You're getting all that kind of classic, like, sparkly clean there. But one of the things that I really like about a Telecaster is the fact that it can handle all those distortions. Now, the standard series goes for a more traditional 9.5 radius on this as well. So a nice, easy to get a grips with board as well. Certainly, you know, for any chord stuff, any lead stuff, you're going to get on totally fine with this. It's actually quite remarkable, the sort of differences with this compared to the old standard series of like the early 2000s. My guitar that I still have, as I've mentioned, it's got a really glossy neck on it. It's got, I'm pretty sure it's a 9.5 radius on it as well, but the pickups are one of the things with that guitar as well. Not to say that I didn't like the pickups in it, but they're not as like active as these ones, and not in the sense that they're active or passive, just like the dynamics of this is one thing that I really quite liked. You know, you play nice and soft on it, it's going to react nice and soft. Whereas then you dig in a little bit to it and it's just going to, you're going to get a much sort of higher kind of breadth of dynamics out of it. Which we expect that out of any guitar, certainly, but with these, those kind of old standards, I always felt they were just like, just all go all the time. Now, started with, you know, the first Fender that was ever made, which is the Telecaster, and what would a new Fender range be without a Stratocaster as well, the one that came next. This is probably a good opportunity actually to talk about all the different colours with the standard series, because they've actually brought back a couple of colours that I've been particularly excited about, especially this Candy Cola Red here, which I hope is coming up how sparkly this is on the camera, because they look absolutely sick. The Tele that I had previously is your classic Olympic White, and that comes in, let me get up actually, show you this brand new range here. Your classic Butterscotch Blonde with the Tele, and that shows off that maple board there as well, along with that Stratocaster that I had in my lap. Now this metallic colour here as well, I really enjoy. I need to get the name exactly right on it. Aquamarine Metallic, this one, which another kind of sparkly old school finish here, which I'm particularly excited about too. And then, of course, what would a Fender line be without basses too? This is our three-tone Sunburst P bass here. Unfortunately, I don't have a jazz bass, which is also in the line. So you bassists are being looked after too. Also comes in the classic black as well. Now these colours are available on any of the guitars, as well as an HSS model for the Stratocaster that we'll touch on in just a moment. But let's check out how the Stratocaster's sounding. Classic tones, strat tones. That was like a combination of strat and tones there. That's patented to me, nobody steal that word there, but classic strat tones out of there, including all those in-between positions. Gonna get myself all tongue-tied now after stones there for a second. But all those in-between positions, as you would expect from a Stratocaster. And again, you're getting that really nice sort of like dynamic response off of them as well. Now, this is a really good opportunity to show you just one more thing that they've added with these guitars. Because the Tele is a hardtail, the Stratocasters have all got the classic Strat trims on them, but they've opted to do a 2-point trim as opposed to that kind of classic 6-screw point trim, which I think is absolutely great. I do prefer these kind of vibrato tailpieces, vibrato bits, bridges, yeah, whatever you want. Put them in the comments what you call them there. But they've also got these really cool brushed steel saddles on them as well, which I think is just a cool little addition, just to kind of set these guitars a little bit aside. Now, when it comes to the controls for the Strat, we've obviously got our volume, we've got our tone, well, 2 tones there, but they've opted for the more modern approach to it, where the back tone there will actually affect that bridge single coil there. Because I don't know about you, but that bridge single coil can just be that little bit harsh, especially if you're, you know, using distortion or anything on it. So if I kick on all of my distortion here, you get that feedback of the single coil there. It's going to be just be a little bit, you know, a little bit sizzly, a little bit angry. So you can see, just by riding that tone knob a little bit there, you can kind of almost get like a bit of a kind of cocked wah sound if you want. But I think that's a total secret weapon, and especially for this being that first step into a Fender guitar, I think anyone who's, you know, on that kind of beginner intermediate side of things can really get a good lot of use out of this. Even if you don't use it for everything, it's a tool to be used, which is absolutely awesome. Now, of course, if that bridge pickup is just that a little bit too sizzly for you, then there is an HSS version that I have talked about previously that you can get, which replaces that bridge single coil with a humbucker, which has been going on since the dawn of time. I feel it's nothing new, but I really like how Fender have given you the option with this line, especially at launch, just because I think in this sort of like modern musical landscape, people are playing a lot more genres of music. You know, you don't want to just have that one guitar that just does the one thing. Like, that's great and all, but I think if someone wants to play, you know, kind of something a bit more modern, a bit more contemporary, you probably want to get a little bit of access to some like heavier, chunky sounds as well, which is exactly what this standard humbucker is going to do. So let me check on all my distortion, and let's go. Which for me, that's my personal preference when it comes to a Stratocaster. Throw a humbucker in that bridge there. Now you don't have the ability to split that to a bridge single coil, which makes this a little bit more focused when it comes to the sounds you can get out of it, of course, but it still has got that 5-way selector and you can get those kind of in-between sounds as well, which, you know, instead of a bridge single coil, I'd probably use in this sound all the time. See, you're still getting all that good stuff with it. So hopefully that gave you an idea of what the electric guitars in the Fender standard range can do. Certainly for me, you know, if you think back to when you were getting your first couple of guitars, maybe that first step up from your beginner guitar, maybe the third one, whatever number it was, if you're a Fender fan at all, there was this sort of like big moment when you got your new guitar and it said Fender on the headstock. Now, with the way that the past couple of years have gone, that sort of cost of entry has gone up ever so slightly, but I'm really glad to see that Fender have introduced this line because it's just going to give people that, I don't want to say that a name will give anybody confidence because, you know, a good player will be able to play on anything, but there's a certain something that happens to you because, you know, it happened to me when I got my first Fender. I was over the moon. I was looking at this guitar that said Fender on the headstock. I was able to join the ranks of all my heroes and all that sort of stuff just in terms of what they played. And the fact they've made, you know, an even more accessible sort of line for the name, I think is just an awesome thing. But let me know what you think about the brand new Fender standard line in the comments down below. While you're there, give us a like and a subscribe because you can keep up with all the latest news at Guitar HQ. But until next time, I'm Kieran, and this has just been a very quick look at the brand new Fender standard range. Have a great day.